Steve Jobs said, if you don't pay for the product, then you are the product. And so when people do give access to allow, say, their camera to, be able to take pictures with it and then load that onto a social network, your intention is, well, I'm going to take a photo of my vacation and it's going to be easy for me to put this online. But there's a lot of fine print in these online, contracts that people are signing essentially when they make their accounts that allows for stuff like that to happen.
Welcome to the Company Dads Podcast. I'm your host, Paul Sullivan. We're focused on lead dads, working moms, and how small changes at home or work can have a big impact on their lives. Each episode promises to deliver actionable advice on some area of concern at home or at work. Short, direct, again, actionable. 5 questions, 5 answers. Today's episode is 100% going to focus on something that almost all of us parents, probably all of us parents, are concerned about, and that is internet safety and how our kids get marketed to online. Our guest is Michael Taverna, the founder and CEO of The Ad Village, a mission-driven platform that protects children from harmful online advertising by promoting positive, non-commercial messages. A seasoned digital marketer since 2009, Michael spent over a decade managing campaigns for some of the world's largest brands. Coming to us live from Southern Maine. Welcome, Mike, to the Company Dads Podcast.
Hey, Paul, thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
This is going to be fascinating. You and I have talked before, and I instantly got this. I've got 3 kids. I see the stuff that pops up. I see how easy they are to sort of lure into something. But that's just me anecdotally. You as the expert, tell me, tell us, why are children such a valuable target for online advertisers? I mean, why is it so appealing for big brands to go at children online?
Yeah, there's many layers to it, but for one reason why it's very valuable is kids influence household buying decisions. Billions of dollars, pass through households and purchases every year, and kids can persuade parents into making decisions. And also, kids at a young age, they're highly impressionable to and loyal to brands. So that's the time when brands can really get in there and turn these children into lifelong customers. And so, the advertisers want to build this brand loyalty early and reap the benefits of it long term.
Have you ever heard of a company called Sephora?
Yeah, absolutely.
They have got to be the most successful company in America today at marketing to girls and young women. I've got 3 daughters, and that Sephora loyalty card, the points, everything about it. And I don't want to, I'm not criticizing Sephora. I'm not implying any nefarious intent, but they have a whole bunch of, from the 8-year-old to the 16-year-old, everything from hand sanitizer that's way too expensive for the 8-year-old to some sort of skincare regime for the 16-year-old. I mean, are they an example of a company that's been super successful marketing to kids online?
I believe so. Funny you mentioned Sephora. My niece, she's 11 now, and recently had some pocket money to spend and went to Sephora. And she actually went in there and said, "Wow, I didn't realize how expensive it was," and didn't actually purchase anything there. But definitely was dragging her mom and her grandmother to bring her there last time she was near, the main mall, which is the major mall near us here in just outside of Portland, Maine. So yeah, it makes sense to me that they're pretty prominent, and that's exactly what they want to do. They want to get kids thinking about their brand, associate that with their status at school, and you got to be
Yeah.
cool, have lipstick or whatever, and it's got to be from Sephora itself or from that actual company.
Yeah. Call it a win, Uncle Mike. I mean, that she went into Sephora and didn't buy anything. So that takes some willpower.
Yeah, pretty tough shopper there. So, but that's unusual, I think she went in there, she had an idea, she thought, I'm going to be buying things, and then the reality hit where, oh, this, stuff doesn't grow on trees. So I think it was a good lesson there.
Yeah. Question 2. Most parents think of ads as just annoying or distracting. I certainly do as an adult. But one of your arguments is that they're actually harmful to children. So unpack that for me. What kind of damage can advertising do to children, especially ones who are just coming online?
Yeah, I think, what ads can do is obviously promote unhealthy behaviors. I think everybody's mind immediately jumps to things like junk food and candy and things like that that are just not good for your body. But there's a lot to advertising that's not good for your mind as well. And I think that both of those are really important. So, to build off of like a cosmetics example like Sephora, that those ads from makeup companies and cosmetic companies can cause body image issues and lower self-esteem and things like that. And in the past year, there's been whistleblowers at major social media companies that have said that they haven't felt comfortable with the way that their companies were positioning their products to cosmetic companies. And one example that's pretty jaw-dropping is where a social media network was telling their cosmetic advertisers that they have the ability, like they know the age of their users, and they have the ability to decipher when phones have taken selfies and then have deleted a lot of those selfies. And so when you match that type of ability to say, we've got access to your camera because you want to upload photos to our network and show your friends, but they also have the ability to know if the camera's facing towards you and you're taking photos, are you deleting those photos, taking more of them?
Unpack this a bit more.
Yeah,
Drill down. Like, why do they want to know this? What do they do with that information? Why do they care if you deleted a selfie? What information is that giving these companies?
that's something that they can use to say, okay, well, majority of the time, if somebody's taking a selfie and deleting it, it's probably because they didn't like the way that they looked in it. And to use that coupled with, an age and saying, okay, well, if they're, between 13 to 16 years old and they're taking selfies and deleting them, we know that they're a female on our platform. Hey, let's use that as a signal to have these cosmetic advertisers serve ads to them about cosmetics. So the ad creative itself might not necessarily stand out as, oh, wow, there's going to be body image issues and you need to buy this product to be pretty. Like they're not going to actually say that, but some advertisers are using and some networks are using these indicators to then say, oh, hey, someone might be image conscious right now. They're vulnerable. Here's a good opportunity to serve them an ad about how makeup will make them prettier or things like that. And so these are seeds that can be planted that have long-term mental health impacts. So it's there's definitely issues with junk food and stuff like that and
Yeah.
planting those seeds, and then also really these ones that can lead to long-term, even lifelong body image issues.
I mean, how is that legal? I mean, is there any regulation around that? How is that legal that you're just granting access because when you grant access to your camera or your photos to that app, they are then, I mean, obviously it's not an individual doing it, but then some sort of algorithm or bot is going and doing it, and that is totally legal because you've given them access to your camera.
Yeah, there's a lot of permissions that people use. And so, Steve Jobs said if you don't pay for the product, then you are the product. There's a huge industry about, buying and selling data. And so when people do give access to allow, say, their camera to, be able to take pictures with it and then load that onto a social network, your intention is, well, I'm going to take a photo of my vacation and it's going to be easy for me to put this online. But there's a lot of fine print in these online, contracts that people are signing essentially when they make their accounts that allows for stuff like that to happen. Similar with, your phone's location data. Hey, everybody has a weather app on their phone and they like when they go on vacation that it knows that you're now, in a different part of the country. That's convenient and that makes sense for that app. But little do they know that that location data can be used for many other things than what they initially intended. So there's a lot of companies that are, doing this legally, air quotes, not to say that it's ethical. And in that example about, social media networks, using these indicators to get cosmetic ads targeting children. Sometimes the advertisers don't even know that that's going on behind the scenes. All they care about is, hey, I serve this ad, people engage with it, I sell my product, I make money. And they don't realize, that, oh, these selfies were necessarily deleted. It's not necessarily a checkbox that they're getting. It's a performance-based world, and they need to make
Wow.
money back. And they're just really looking at the numbers there. And the social networks, they know that, hey, well, if I have all these ingredients over here, and I can put them together in a way that just turns numbers onto a screen for my advertiser to be looking profitable, then that advertiser is going to put more money towards my network. They're going to maybe reallocate from other networks, and that's really where a lot of the problems occur.
This is chilling, Mike. Question three, was going to kind of ask about this, but I instead I want to turn the question around a little bit and delve deeper. And question two is going to be, how do advertisers track and target people online? You've just given us some examples there, and the invisible tools and strategies that power this surveillance. Maybe you could drill down a bit more on that. But really, the question is, what do we do? Like, you can make this an ad for Ad Village if you want, but like, what do we as individuals do? Because there is a trade-off. Like, I want to know if I drive an hour away, I want to know what the weather is going to be when I get there the following morning. But that seems to have a potential downside. So knowing that advertisers are tracking and targeting people online, knowing that there are these invisible tools of surveillance, what do we as parents and as adults do about it?
Yeah, great question. I think, being more aware of terms and conditions, it's easy
Not the
to
fine print. Don't tell
no.
me to read the fine print, Mike.
We don't have time to read all of the fine print, but there's definitely landmines in there, right? And that's to cover their bases and say, well, legally, we've received consent to do these things that might otherwise be protected under advertising laws. Um, so I think being a conscious consumer is pretty important. And that doesn't come easy, right? Those terms and conditions pop up. You're like, I'm just trying to build my account right now. It forces you to just scroll to the bottom, and so they can just say yes legally. That went across their screen. You check the box, and you move on. Um, but there are a lot of things that are baked into hardware and software now, such as on your smartphone, where some companies are trying to do good and notice when I have an Android device. So every now and again, I get an alert on my phone that says, "Hey, you haven't used these apps for a while, so we're going to just basically turn off all the permissions on them that you've agreed to." And so sometimes those things are opt-in as well, where, hey, will you allow your phone to adjust permissions on your devices? And so as long as it's going in one direction and you're allowing your phone, or, more importantly, your children's phones and tablets and laptops, if you're allowing them to downgrade access and to restrict things, that's a nice way to not have to read through all the fine print, but also know that you're set up with this evolving way to maintain these permissions. A new app gets downloaded. Hopefully they're not doing anything nefarious, but then, hey, if that app is no longer engaged, it's gonna stop, recording that data. Um, so, there's also just, um, doing things that, like clearing your cache every now and again and trying to reset your history that they've built up on your devices and make it a little bit harder for them to track you. All of those things can really add up.
My youngest daughter obviously doesn't, or not obviously, my youngest daughter, we don't allow her very much time online. And what she does have are like some games that she's downloaded where she can color online or dress up a Barbie doll or something like that online. Are those things that we should be worried about as well? Because there's tracking built into something so seemingly innocent as a coloring app?
Yeah, I think, there's definitely you know, games and places for children to play that are relatively safe. Not every tool that's out there is, going against the rules or doing anything, that would be alarming there. But it's always worth checking out and making sure. So
Hmm.
there are platforms that that they monetize their business in ways that don't require ads. So I think that that's something that's really important for parents as somebody who's in the industry of advertising that wants to use the tools of the trade that I've learned, for helping major brands serve ads in the past. I think it's really important to, um, be aware of not every monetization has to happen through advertising, and maybe through subscription services and things like that. That's how tools like that can make money without needing to, manipulate children for the sake of advertising, for the sake of profit. Um, I also encourage, to get back to your other question, what else can you do? Um, you know, Ad blockers are a great way to try to defend your child's devices. So if they do stumble into territories online that do serve ads, maybe they're not even specifically designed for children. So that's where some of these slippery slopes can occur and ads can start to make their way in front of children. Ad blockers are a great way to limit the amount of opportunities an advertiser has to get in front of somebody as well. So I'd say be vigilant, and there's a lot of good resources out there that provide labels that they've pre-vet these environments that are designed for children. And so if you see that there is like a safety seal, hey, this is COPPA certified, which is COPPA. That stands for Children's Online Privacy Protection Act. That's kind of one vote towards saying, okay, a third party's looked at this.
Okay.
Now, there's a lot of companies that go out there and do those types of certifications. So you might want to look in and just see, is that a real certification there? It's not just something somebody threw on the website. But there are some visual indicators that can make you feel a little bit more trustworthy of those environments when kids are playing on them.
Okay. Oh, wow. Terrifying and amazing. But let me ask you this. We're talking about the here and now. I think every parent tunes into these things when they become a parent, and they're not really paying attention otherwise, because why would they? Our lives are busy. But have things changed in the past like 5 to 10 years to make this problem worse for children, or are people just becoming, more aware of it now, and it's been an ongoing issue?
I think it's both. I mean, people are definitely more aware of it now. As a relatively young industry, online advertising, it's still a lot of moving targets. But I think people are getting to be more aware that that it's not all sunshine and rainbows when you're talking about going online. Um, Other things that have changed other than just awareness is, children are getting in front of screens more often. There's some studies out right now that say, an extremely high percentage of 2-year-olds have their own tablets. Now, some of these studies say like 50% of 2-year-olds have their own tablet. And then when I talk to parents, um, that doesn't seem to necessarily be the case. But I think the point is made that, yeah, kids are getting in front of screens more often, which has never happened at such a young age before. So not only are kids getting access to screens at a younger age, just the amount of screen time that they're getting per day is growing. So, some parents that are busy might put their kid in front of a screen as like a temporary babysitter. We all got to do what we got to do sometimes, and that might not be the best choice, but that might be the only choice at the time. But longer screen time is more than just bad for their eyes and for their attention spans. It's more exposure to these opportunities to have these ads just pop up in front of your child's face. They're sitting next to you, and before you know it, an advertiser has made an impression, and now they're moving on, and then another ad's coming up, and this is all happening within the household, which is pretty scary. And then last on that point, is just the technology from the advertising side is getting more advanced. So there's tools that help optimize and look for, oh, when I serve this type of ad on this gaming platform, it turns into a lot of money for me. That used to be humans like myself. I worked in like the automotive industry for a very long time, helping sell cars for major brands. It used to be a human that would sit there and look at data and go, okay, if I, on Google search, if I bid on this keyword, like a new Subaru in Portland, Maine, that turns into a lot of revenue for me and a lot of website traffic. And humans, we can make those decisions at a slow pace, and we're not always accurate. But now with technology, and especially with AI getting involved and these algorithms getting in place, the machines are finding these needles in a haystack that a human might not otherwise be able to. And then they change settings on advertising campaigns, and they go, okay, we'll spend more money here and bid more aggressively, and really do anything you can within the means of our budget to get this ad into this slot. So they're not necessarily even looking for, is this unattended young child in front of a screen and parents aren't paying
Right.
attention right now. It's really just about, do the numbers make sense, and they add more fuel to the fire when they see success.
I mean, is it fair to say there isn't uh, sort of nefarious intent, but there are nefarious results because a machine is doing all this and just trying to sell as much as it possibly can without really caring who it's selling to?
Yeah, I think that's great. I got to write that one down. Yeah, it's like going back to that cosmetic example. The cosmetic companies didn't actually know that these social platforms were using, the cell phone photo, the selfie indicators to have the cosmetic companies serve those ads. They're putting in a budget, they're putting in creative that, they put
Yeah.
in some information like that, and then the machines start to take over. And so, yeah, I think there's a lot of advertisers out there that are not necessarily, typing in that they want to do these things, but, to get the results that they want and that their company demands and their clients, advertising agency clients demand. These are the types of things that can be happening behind the scenes.
Wow. Question five. This will come as no surprise to you or anyone listening, and that is the what in the world do we do about this? You said the regulation seems to be light, but how does a platform like yours, the Ad Village, how does the platform help parents? How do you flip the script on these advertisers and you know protect kids, as it were?
Yeah, thanks for asking. The Ad Village, what we're doing is we're using the tools of the trade, except we're the good guys. So we're fighting fire with fire in some capacity. Um, but it's all opt-in. So parents are intentionally joining our online community. The bigger our community gets, the more, power that we have to disrupt what are online ad auctions. And so an online ad auction happens, as the video that you're watching is taking a pause and the ad's about to load. There's a split second auction that happens where all of the advertisers just say, this is how much I'm willing to spend to serve this ad right now. And so advertisers, to go back to a cosmetic example, they're selling this product. They know how much it costs them. They can only spend so much money to get the product out there because they know how often it's going to actually get purchased. And they're really focused on return on ad spend and the return on investment. Um, so with the Ad Village, we're going into those same auctions, and we don't really care about selling a product. Our ads don't try to sell anything to children. We're just trying to get messages out there that say, "Hey, you're awesome. Have a great day. You're loved." Things like that to make the internet a better place for kids. And by doing that, we're taking up the space that an advertiser would be there trying to sell a product to a child and influence them. And so what we're doing is we're going to those auctions. Say it's a car auction, the everybody at that auction in their mind says, "Oh, that used vehicle is worth $5,000, so I'm going to try to get it for less than 1,000." We go to that car auction and we say, "Hey, that car is part of our community. That child's part of our community. Um, we're willing to spend, as much as possible to try to get our ad in front of them and scare away these other advertisers. The other advertisers, they're looking for, the lamb that has been separated from the herd. They want to go after people that are inexpensive to serve ads to, that are not protected, and we're a bubble that we're trying to form, where again we're spending more money than what they think is worth it to get ads in front of the kids. And unfortunately, There's a lot of the lambs out there that have been separated from the herd that the advertisers can go after that are much less expensive. So they've got tons of options out there. And when they, again, try to get an ad in front of a child within our community, we're this protective bubble, a digital moat, or, a
Yeah.
drawbridge or something like that, that's really trying to interfere with that whole ecosystem.
This has been amazing, Mike. I mean, you're like the spy who came in from the cold here. I mean, you're doing amazing work. But, one question I've been remiss in asking, sort of bonus question here is, why are you doing this? Like, what motivated you to do this? To not be that, Cold War spy doing all this, but to actually go, flip the script and come to the other team?
Yeah, I think when I was in college, I somebody came in and did a presentation. They ran an analytics company in Burlington, Vermont, where I went to school. And I thought that was fascinating at the time. It was probably 2006. The industry was really young at the time, and I just thought it was fascinating that you could serve ads to somebody online and like basic stuff, like see if they clicked on it and like, oh, click-through rate and oh wow, they bought something. And so that always fascinated me. And that's how, I got into that as a career. Um, in my career, I worked in the automotive space for most of it, and I didn't really care too much about vehicles. I thought the technology was cool, the company and the people I worked with was really cool. And so I like that aspect of it, but it was missing that, like, at the end of the day, did I fully care about what I was doing? And other than helping out my colleagues and, some of the great clients we had and stuff, it wasn't that fulfilling. But when I was in high school and in college, um, I was a lifeguard that taught sailing lessons and to kids that were 10 to 13 years old. And that was really fulfilling. I thought it was cool, teaching kids something that wouldn't have otherwise known. Um, and so after being in the industry for, 16 years, I was at a family event. My niece and nephew are, their parents are very responsible. One's a teacher, the other one works in the school. Um, in the local school here. And, they're great parents, but at this party, I was noticing as the parents would come by and check in on the kids and say, hey, get off your phones, go talk to grandpa or something like that. Oh, what video are you watching? There would be a video on the screen, but then a couple minutes later, an ad would pop up and it would disappear. And like the parents would not have seen that unless they were just hovering over their shoulders. So it really got me thinking about how, you know, how could I use the skills that I have, the tools of the trade, match that up with my passion working with kids and improving the lives of children. And it really clicked when I was like, oh, wow, like what ad was that? Because sometimes these ads aren't just targeted to children. They're ads that might actually have tried to get in front of the adult in the house, and all of a sudden, the kids are seeing these other ads too. So, yeah, that's where I had the aha moment. And then, from there, I was trying to figure out, okay, well, like how do I actually do something about that? Because there's tools out there that allow parents to monitor devices. There's other solutions out there, but it really felt like that. And after doing research, I couldn't find anybody in the space that was actively going into auctions. Having an advertising budget that came from you know the parents that have enrolled their kids into our community, and then using those crowdsourced funds to just scare away the advertisers and again just try to make it more expensive, scare them away because
Yeah.
they're focused on the bottom line and not necessarily, making the internet a more positive place.
Thank you, Michael Taverna, CEO of the Ad Village, the spy who came in from the cold, helping parents out. I thoroughly enjoyed this, and talk about some news you can use. Thank you so much for what you're doing, and thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks for having me, Paul. This is great.
thank you for listening to another episode of the Company of Dads podcast. I really appreciate you tuning in week after week. Just want to use this moment here to thank the people who make it possible. Number one, of course, Helder Mira, who is our podcast editor. We also have Skip Cherryholmes, who many of you know from the Lead Dad Diaries. He's taken over our social media. Terry Brennan is helping us with our audience development, and Emily Servin is there each and every day helping with the web development. I can't do any of this without an amazing board of advisors. So I just want to say thank you to all of you who help, and I want to say thank you to everyone who listens, and hopefully you'll tune in again next week. Thanks so much.